Hey everyone, in today's video I'll be talking to you about the Samyang 50mm f1.4 Mark II, so stay tuned. I remember when the first 50mm f1.4 for Samyang came out, it was groundbreaking because it was their first AF lens. Now with that 50mm, they had quite a few bit of flaws in terms of a bit of slow autofocus, but the lens did produce amazing image quality. Focus was a little bit slow, and also the motor was a bit noisy as well. Fast track years down the line, they've been releasing a lot of Mark II versions, and one of them was the 50mm 1.4 Mark II. The Mark I version was weighing at 585 grams, whereas the new one, it's a bit more compact and lighter. So the new one actually now weighs 420 grams. So Samyang has gone more for a compact and a lightweight design with a lot of their Mark II versions. Unlike the Mark I, the Mark II now comes with the focus hold button, which I currently have it set at IAF, and the mode 1 and mode 2. So the mode 1, I have set it as manual focus, as well as mode 2 as aperture control. You can customize these mode buttons through the Samyang lens station, and you can customize it to whichever one you prefer. Unlike the first one, the Mark II now has a better grip in their focus ring, whereas the other one had more of those sort of lines, but this one's got more of a nicer grip. It's firm, but yet smooth. The filter size on the Mark I was 67mm, whereas the Mark II version is 72. So they went a bit more of a wider opposed to the Mark I, but still retaining that compact and lightweight. Now, for the sharpness of this lens, shooting wide open at f1.4, it is very sharp in the center, but on the corners it is soft, where you can sort of see the words, but you can see how soft it is comparing to what it is in the center. Once you stop down to around f2.8, f3.5, it starts to improve. Where I find a drastic improvement is when it goes above f5.6, then f8 it becomes really sharp, and f11 even sharper. With chromatic aberration, I have noticed a little bit of chromatic aberration in with the images being produced, but it's not a lot to sort of warrant, oh, it's very bad. Plus you can remove it from post, but it just also depends on the highlighted background that you are shooting against that will show the chromatic aberration. For the sun flare, the 50mm 1.4 Mark II does handle the sun flare very well, and it has a nice control. For video wise, the autofocus is very quick and it's very silent. Unlike its predecessor, this one, they've done a massive improvement in terms of with the autofocus, so it's a lot faster, as well as quiet, so great for video. Whereas the Mark I versions, the first generation lenses, they all had a bit of noise in their motor, so a lot of videographers weren't entirely happy with that, but they were amazing for stills. Now Samyang has now improved a lot on this with their second generation lenses, and the focusing motor is a lot silent compared to what it was. You cannot hear it. Even if putting it up against the ear, you can just obviously hear it when you have your ear against the lens, but realistically you're not going to be shooting like that, or you're not going to put in the mic against the lens to hear anything. But in saying that, it is actually very quiet and very quick, as you can see from the sample videos I've just shown. In terms of low light video, this lens does lock on with the focusing very well. Even while I'm moving around showing my dog, it still retained the focus. I was shooting in animal IAF, so it always locked onto my dog's eyes as I was moving around, and it stayed in focus. So both low light and normal daylight video autofocusing, this lens has performed really well. A 50mm focal length is the most realistic lens in terms of the eye view for a person. So our eyes and the 50mm is actually very close in terms of the focal length and the view, which is the most loved lens for a lot of photographers. Shooting portraits with this using IAF, the autofocus locked on nicely on the eye. Here's a self-portrait just locking on, showing you how sharp this lens is. This was shot at f8, and it still retained how nice and sharp my eyes were, my face, my facial hair. everything was nicely sharp. Great for studio. I have a limited space, as you can see behind me is where I shoot, and I'll be using the 50mm a lot. Here are a couple of studio shots using this lens with strobes, shooting at f8, focusing works really well. For example, like the 85 G Master lens, when I'm shooting studio, I found the focusing was a bit slow, whereas the 50mm, I did find that the focusing was quick and locked on nicely. Shooting with it events at a christening, as you can see some of these shots and how well it locked on. Now, I like to test my lenses not just in my normal shooting day life, but I do love to test it out while I'm shooting a real life scenario, being able to give you guys a honest and genuine review. With the focusing on this in low light reception or in the church, I have no flash. I'm using the ambient light or natural light that's coming in, focusing locked on nicely. Kept up very well with everyone moving on the dance floor, no issues, no struggles, no delay. And I'm actually been really impressed. Unlike the Mark I, I would always have every now and then delay. I got to pre-focus before things happen. So I got to estimate or judge from what I can see before it happens with the Mark I, just to make sure I do nail the focus. I've been shooting a lot of portraits and been loving using this lens a lot. Not just for portraits, just doing an urban style portrait shoot, some nice close-up shots, detail. These are all wide open, nice and sharp. The eyes are nicely focused, all natural light. Even if you wanted to do it for some landscape shots, shooting at f8, f11, you get some nice sharp images. Minimum focus distance for this lens is about 40 centimeters, so you still can get nice and close to your subject, retaining some nice stunning bokeh. You would have seen from this shot and some of my previous shots that I've shown at shooting a baptism, how you got those nice bokeh and background separation from your main focus of subject. I will be doing a comparison review against the 50mm 1.2 G Master lens. A lot of people have been asking me about it. I know the G Master is a f1.2 and this is the f1.4. We're taking out the f1.2, just comparing the f1.4 with the Samyang and the G Master, just to give you guys an idea on which lens performs better, make it your life a lot easier in which decision, because I've seen a lot of questions, what should I get, 50 G Master or the 50 Samyang? And a lot of people have not shot both, where I have been lucky enough to own both of these lenses, so I will be able to do a comparison to make it a lot easier for you guys. So this will be more of your judgment, not mine. So do subscribe and hit the bell notification button to stay notified for those videos. Until then guys, hope you guys enjoy and we'll catch you later. See ya.